Hi, welcome back my Flora Garden Escape channel. I am happy to have you guys here. So I'm so happy to have you guys here today. Y'all are probably wondering what I'm doing as we are not outside currently. I'm currently inside, feeding my pig, his goat milk. He doesn't get it all the time. Every so often, we will give it to him just because it's good for him. It helps with a lot of different things, even down to his coat. If y'all are wondering, we did get a pig recently. Here is pictures of him currently and when we got him. So today's going to be a little different. I'm going to feed him, and then we're going to take the dog out and take him out. As y'all probably hear him squealing. I'm making his formula right now, so that way he can have this, and then I'll take him out to use the restroom outside. And then once we get through this, then we're going to go and get things situated outside. I do have to check the weather report online to see if what we're looking at as far as temperatures goes for this evening, and then also check to see if it's going to rain. And if, depending on what the outcome is of everything, we may need to go through to uncover everything and put the sheets and that away that we use to cover the plants up with. So I'm going to quickly get dressed, get them taken care of, and then look into that. And then we are going to go outside, uncover everything if we need to. And then since our internet keeps going in and out, we may go through to also do the weed barriers today as well. As you guys know, it is Christmas time, so it is getting cold out. Temperatures are dropping. If you haven't started your winter preparations already, you definitely want to go ahead and would have had to have gone through to get that started. As a lot of your warm season crops and things like that, they don't handle the cold so well, especially with temperatures dropping below 35 degrees. So you'll definitely want to grab like a winter barrier cover from your local hardware store, or you'll want to take some old sheets and blankets and cover up your plants with. As those cold temperatures can be very harsh on fruit trees, on your warm covered crops and things like that. So you'll definitely want to monitor your weather and things like that for those temperatures, especially with it being in the cold season. So I'm going to go ahead and finish getting my shoes on. I'm going to take care of these animals. And then I also got to feed the chickens too. So we're going to be doing a lot today in this video. So guys, don't forget to hit a like and subscribe down below. Don't forget to hit that bell so that way you don't miss out on any of our new videos. And let's go ahead and get started on our day. What do you say, Coda Bear? Mwah! All right, let's go. All right, so as we're taking the animals potty and taking them out, there's a few things I wanted to go over with you guys. So when it comes to the winter preparations, sometimes with your smaller fruit trees, you're able to build up a weed barrier. Well, not a weed barrier, but a barrier around the crops, and you're able to put fencing around it, which then you can fill that fencing up with like leaves and things like that, as that holds in warm temperatures to help keep the plant or the tree warm during the winter season. You can definitely do that. That is definitely an option, especially if that crop is small enough or at a decent size to where you can do that. Now, do keep in mind with your bigger ones, during these cold temperatures, you will want to go through to do some pruning. it's the best time to actually do pruning on fruit trees is during the cold seasons. So you can definitely go through and do that. As you guys can see behind me is some blankets, as we already uncovered some. Some did not get covered, as the family helps out keep getting these plants covered. So some of them did not get covered. They're slacking on me. And it happens. Mistakes happen. It's not really too much of a big deal, as long as it's not too much of a damage to that plant. As you guys can see, we got little Wilbur out here and Coda Bear out here walking along. But we're gonna go ahead and take them out, take them back in because they are done, and we're gonna go ahead and get started out here in the garden. All right, so we got the animals back inside, got them situated, had to take care of some laundry. Now I'm out here taking care of the chicken coop. We had to make a few slight adjustments with their water and that, and then with their doors and that, so that way they can stay warmer during these cold times. I did have to adjust their tarp. As you see, the previous one got ruined by Hurricane Milton. It was, I believe, that one. Yeah, Hurricane Milton was the one that kind of destroyed that one up. It was either Milton or Herline. I lose track. But anyways, enough about that. But had to readjust their tarp so that way they're more covered. And that way they're able to stay a lot warmer during these cold times. I did check our radar in our weather. It does appear that it is going to rain, not today, as the chances of it are low, but it will be raining over the next couple of days. The reason why that would be is just due to anytime here in Florida, anytime we get warmer temperatures, we end up getting rain just due to the temperatures rising and it causing that humidity in that, because we already have high humidity. So with it being warmer up into the 70s, low 70s around here, but then only dropping down to barely 65 degrees, it ends up causing Florida to be very cold, and then we end up seeing rain in the next couple of days. So from looking at the temperatures and that, it definitely is going to rain. So we are going to go through to pick up the blankets. Since it's not going to be cold tonight or tomorrow, we can go ahead and get them picked up. But after the rain is done, we'll have to go back through and put the blankets back out over the crops, just so that way the crops are staying warm, because it will drop back down below 50 after the rain comes, which is expected just due to it is winter time, and it is the cold season. So we do anticipate seeing that. So we do definitely have to cover everything back up after the rain. When it comes to your temperatures, and when I say you're going to want to monitor it, you're going to really want to monitor it. Check it daily, check it throughout the day, make sure nothing's changed. And when you see things like this going through to change, you definitely want to go ahead and prep and get everything ready for that rain in the cold season. Which is kind of what I'm doing today, is really getting ready for the temperatures to drop back down. We've already been dealing with temperatures dropping back down, so we're just double preparing. A lot of things, guys, we have already moved into the greenhouse. We've actually sealed up the greenhouse. I mean, not sealed up, but closed up the greenhouse, just so that way it stays warmer in here and the heat can't go out as quickly. We did bring a few additional plants in that was missed from the last cold season, so we may have to do some replanting with some things. But so far everything in here is looking great, as you guys can see. It's growing beautifully. We do have seedlings we got to transplant, as you guys can see here. We got some tomato plants and pepper plants in here, so these are growing beautifully as well. We got some aloe in here. There's quite a few in here. More than likely before today's out, we'll end up putting more plants in here, just so that way they can stay nice and warm during this cold season. We do have a lot of transplanting we need to go through and do. I do need to give you guys an update as well over the garden, so we'll be doing that later on as well.
we are going to go ahead, and we've pretty much already been talking about the cold seasons and that and the preparations. So we're going to continue talking about that, but then also later we're going to also release the video of us putting up the weed barrier and getting that put in place. So you stay tuned for that. This is pretty much going to go over winter preparations. So just stay tuned for the weed barrier, as I know you guys have been asking for some more weed eating videos, so do keep a lookout for that. But I got to feed the rest of these chickens and then we can finish going into our video. Alright, so apart from covering your plants with your blankets or your sheets or whatever it is the case that you will be using, you guys know we also do our worms and that in our composting. So we do have worms in our compost. And it does get cold. You'll want to put, when it comes to placing like a compost barrel where they spin, or if you're just doing a big compost, you're going to want to make sure it does have a lot of mulch. The mulch helps keep in that warmth. Worms like to be warm. They do not like to be cold. They like the constant food of composting from your kitchen scraps. They love the constant food. That does keep them happy. What we're going to do now is grab some mulch from our mulch pile, and we're going to take it over to our compost barrels that spin, so that way we can help our worms stay warm. So let's go ahead and get this real quick. Alright, so we got the mulch. Y'all are probably looking at this like, Selena, that really isn't a lot. You technically don't need a lot of mulch when it comes to barrels like this. Now, if you're doing a bigger compost, yeah, you're going to want a lot of mulch. You're going to want a lot of leaves. That's going to help keep that compost warm. It's going to help keep in that heat. So that's definitely something you're going to want to use. Now, when it comes to doing it small like we do in our barrels compared to doing it in a bigger compost pile, the difference is that the bigger compost pile you do want in a sunny location, so that way it can retract that heat from the sun. But if you're in an area where temperatures are scorching hot, they do get over 90 like it does here in Florida, you don't want it in direct sunlight all day long, because that's going to be a lot of heat, and let's be honest, a lot of heat can cause a little bit of an issue with your compost, as you're going to want your compost between a certain temperature at a constant figure. So you don't want it to overheat, and you don't want to fry the compost and then there be no worms in your compost to break it all down. Excuse me. So the location of your barrels and your composting, you're going to want to set that in a right location. Now, during the cold times, yes, you'll want it in a more of a sunny location. So you're going to want that average pinpoint. And this is where monitoring your yard to see where and how the sun falls in your yard really depends on where you're going to want to put that compost. So you're going to want to monitor that to see exactly where you're going to want to put it. Now, thankfully for our spin barrels right here, these actually can be moved. I actually am planning on moving these to a little bit further back, somewhere where they are still getting the sunlight, but somewhere where they're not also getting it all day long. So we're going to be moving this. Apparently over there by the tree does seem to be a little bit better, so we may end up moving it over there. So we're still trying to figure that out. But let's go ahead and add this mulch in real quick, and then we'll finish up with our winter preparation video. right, so when it comes to composting, just on another note here, when it comes to composting like you do with these, even with a big compost pile, you're going to want to turn it every day, so that way it stays rotated, and it doesn't build up bacteria or anything. You also want to stir your big compost piles around as well, just so that way it can break down a lot better. We're going to walk over here to my big compost pile, so that way you guys can kind of take a look at it, get an idea of how the difference is between the composting. So we'll just kind of include this with our winter preparation. As you guys can see, this is our big compost pile. We did add some weeds to it. We've added wood to it. We definitely do need to come out here and stir it up, so that way everything really gets broken down. We had pulled a lot of leaves and vines from this tree here, and I just included them in here. It will take time for it to all break down. We are actually building up our our spin barrels up right now, so we mainly are going to be using this this compost pile for like any soil that we may need, any transplanting that we're going to be doing, so that way we can still transplant and have good soil. I'm just currently taking around looking at the garden, seeing exactly what I'll need to do here for our garden, because we did go through and transplant, if you guys remember, we did transplant some dazzling blue kale, and we do have some growing here in the garden, and it looks like I have dill growing in the garden too, so take a look. This is the dazzling blue kale, and it appears here we have dill growing here as well, which is a little mind-boggling. As you guys can see, it is growing along this area here. Don't mind the pop-up of weeds. These guys are really atrocious because they grow on the top part, the mulch and that. So there's really no way to keep them out. I've tried to weed through the area, and pull the seeds out myself for the plants, so that way they quit growing back, but somehow they just keep coming back. They are atrocious. They are a pain in my side, and I'm at the point with them, with how much they tend to take over. I am really at the point of just putting a weed barrier in the big garden as well, and covering it up, and then just using it, which will take a little bit of an action differently than what we normally approach. So we're still looking into I'm still looking into how I'm going to go about doing that, as I don't want to just jump the gun on a project and be like, yes, this is the route we're going to take, and then come to find out it's not going to work, especially with this being such a big area. So we'll kind of go through and see, and you guys will move forward with me through this kind of project if we do end up going this route. But now we're going to go back over into our crop cover, and talk about covering crops, and get back into winter preparations, because this is something that we're currently in and I need to quit babbling on. So you're going to want to look at each plant, see what plant needs, what each plant needs in that, and then you're going to be able to kind of know, okay, this plant needs to be covered up for the winter time. These plants need to be covered up. These plants, and especially if it's plants that you're wanting to keep and preserve over winter, that you don't want to die off. So you'll want an area where you can put them where they'll still get the sunlight but also be able to stay warm. A lot of the herbs, guys, they do like the colder temperatures, so they won't give you too much of of a fret when it comes to these cold temperatures. Just be mindful and look into each herb that you're growing to see what the lowest temperature it can handle. But you'll definitely want to cover up your plants when it gets too cold for them to handle, because it will kill them off, and it will be considered a frost damage. So with the winter preparations, from your plants to covering them up with a blanket or a winter coverage, so just so that way they can stay warm, you're going to want to uncover them during certain times of the day, especially if it starts getting warmer than usual. But you do want to cover them before it does get freezing cold and they can't handle those temperatures anymore. You are also going to want to make sure your compost bins have enough mulch in that to develop that heat to keep that warmth inside. With your animals, especially if you have chickens, you're going to want to make sure to provide them with a lot of hay. That hay will help keep warm. You'll want to make sure that that wind can't break through into that coop, and make them cold as well. You're also going to want to make sure that they do have plenty of hay in each coop, so that way they are able to bundle up in that coop with the eggs to stay warm. You'll also want to go through and you'll want to make sure that not only are the plants covered, but your compost has mulch. You are also going to want to make sure that, what was I about to say? That you got your plants, you got your trees. You can also look into, for your fruit trees, doing the fence around the weed barrier around the tree, and add mulch into it for that warmth as well. So you do have that option. And then on top of that, with everything that you're covering in that, remember during the cold season, when everything's died back, you are going to want to prune your fruit trees, as that's going to be the best time to prune them. The bigger the fruit tree, you're going to have a lot harder time covering it up. So I wouldn't necessarily covering it up, as they do get bigger, they are able to handle these colder temperatures, and not be so damaged. Currently what I'm doing is picking up all these blankets and that, just so that way these blankets don't get wet, and I'm losing y'all, and we don't end up having moldy blankets, so that way we can reuse them, because you don't want to put mold on top of a tree. Bear with me. Alright, so as you guys can see, I'm carrying tons of blankets. So when it comes to like trees like this one that are super tall, I actually really don't worry about covering it, because it's so tall, and that would be really hard to cover. Could you imagine covering a tree that big with a blanket, or even covering it with mulch and leaves? We're not doing all that. So we're gonna take these blankets, I'm gonna put them in my bin, and we're gonna put these back in the greenhouse. We don't need them tonight or tomorrow night. After the rain clears, we are gonna need them, so there is that. All right, so one thing I do want to say is, if you are going through to use blankets, you're going to want to use thick blankets, and the thicker the better, because even with a blanket like this that is medium thick, it'll still kill off the plants. So make sure to bundle them up good, bundle them up tight, because even with sheets, it's not going to help it. As you guys can see, it doesn't help it. Sometimes it can, depending on the thicker of the sheet and that. If you get like a fiber or something that holds in the heat and that, then you can definitely use that. Just keep in mind, it might rain today, guys. I hear thunder. I'm not too worried about these pepper plants dying off, really, guys, just due to we have some in the greenhouse, so I have some being stored in there. They'll grow out throughout the season until they quit producing. and then we'll always go through to replant in this area again. Let me go ahead and grab these blankets and we'll put these up. All right, so we got those blankets put up. We're gonna close the greenhouse back up. Later today, we're gonna come back out, probably do some transplanting and some more work out in the garden. So we've pretty much went over everything when it comes to winter preparation. And we've even included some fun facts with winter preparation with your composting and with your chickens if you got chickens. So I think that it's going to be pretty much it, guys. I'm going to head inside. We're going to have some lunch. And then later, if it isn't raining by then, we're going to come back out and we will do the weed barrier and do our weed barrier video. So stay tuned for that, but that is going to be it, guys. I will catch you later and see y'all next time. Deuces.